to Africa now because 22 nations are already in debt distress or at risk of being so. That is the warning from the head of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. Soaring US interest rates have pushed up the value of the dollar against many African currencies, making it far more expensive to service debt. African countries already pay up to 4 times as much to borrow as other parts of the world, according to the African Finance Development Bank. It is calling for reform, as Dr. Adesina explained to the BBC's Joel Kuruyungi in an exclusive interview.
The pressure is relentless on global financial institutions to reform. They have no choice but to reform. The global financial architecture today is not serving the interests of Africa well enough, just to be clear. First, take a look at what happened during to climate change. You interviewed me right here in Kenya. Kenya just went through a devastating era of floods. It's not just Kenya. It makes me sad to see floods in Mozambique, droughts in Zambia, or in Zimbabwe, or all over the Sahel. So, but how much does Africa get? Pretty much very, very small. No country should have to deal with climate change by borrowing commercial money. No, that ought to be grants.
And in a recent speech you made, you expressed frustration at biases that will see African countries pay up to $74 billion servicing debt. What is standing in the way of shifting these biases? People
say Africa is risky. Well, don't just believe perception. Perception is not reality. And President Ruto said something which I found quite interesting. He said that for Kenya, when there was a coup in Niger Republic, suddenly they had to pay 220 basis points more in terms of servicing interest rate they had to pay. And when they asked why, they said because there was a coup in Niger. And so, but I take a look at the map of Kenya, and Niger is not inside of Kenya. So that tells you that, lack of proper understanding, not understanding the context, and perhaps a little bit of historical issues sometimes leads to not the right assessment of the credit risks.
What will you say to critics who say, Dr. Adesina, there's corruption and mismanagement of public funds in African countries? Surely a responsible investor would be wary of lending.
Corruption is not unique to Africa. Corruption is all over the world. Whenever you have human activity, that people can profit from weak institutions and lack of compliance in many places, that happens. Africa didn't cause the global financial crisis, did we? We must continue to have transparency, good governance, accountability.